Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we're going to be doing our top picks for the truck race. Now, I have to do the truck race and Xfinity race breakdown before qualifying because qualifying is only a few hours beforehand. So I'm just giving you the best drivers at the track and then kind of telling you, like, okay, if you can get a guy, if you can get this guy starting in like 20th or something or worse, then he's got some real upside, especially for cheaper drivers. And then obviously the guys that have been consistent starting in the top 10, I've got those guys listed as well. So this is going to be the truck race. This race is Friday. Um, Overall, I actually found that this had a really good set of drivers to choose from. So you're going to be able to make some quality lineups here. There's some good value and there's some good top tier guys as well. Obviously, they're getting pretty close to the playoffs, so these races are very important for the big guys, especially. And so, getting the right drivers in here is definitely going to help you win. There's a lot of drivers at this track that just don't do well at this track, and so we definitely want to try to prioritize people who are doing good. And obviously, on NASCAR, the big bonuses are going to be for if you get laps led or laps generally, or the differential between where you start and where you finish, because you get points for that, which give you a lot of points. So you can really have largely different scores simply because of that. Like even like looking at Ryan Preece here in his last few races, he had one race where he started 22nd and finished second, and another race where he started fifth and finished third, which those finishes are giving you just about the same amount of points. And even in the race where he started third, he had 16 fast laps and 27 laps led, and he still had 57 points, which is lower than when he didn't even lead that many laps or have any fast laps, where he got 65 points, just because he had such a better differential from the start. It's very important if you can get guys that are going to finish in the top 10 that start, in the top, start outside the top 10, but also finish in the top 10. That's really where you're going to get the most points. And obviously, guys that start near the back of the field that can make it into the top 20 are going to be the type of guys that you're going to be able to get good points with. And so, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the drivers themselves. So, my top overall option is Zane Smith. Obviously, he is really good. Only scored below 49 fantasy points one time in 5 starts in this race. And he hasn't started this race outside of the top 10, and he's never finished it below the top 11. So he's a really good position to score a lot of points here. He's probably the favorite to win the race, I would expect. And he can score a massive amount of points for you. Obviously, he's pretty expensive, most expensive driver on the slate, but he's probably going to pay off of it because he's been really good here, consistent, doesn't crash out, and just finds a way to stay in the top 10 the entire race and keep it that way. So the next guy that I like is John Hunter Nemechek. In 2 truck starts, he started in the pole in both races and had top 6 finishes, but he hadn't led very many laps, which does cap his potential, but he still has some potential here. It's just a little bit capped based on that reality. Ryan Preece is going to be my next guy. Now, he has never finished a truck race outside of the top 7 at this track. Or actually, this season, I'm sorry, in the truck races that he's raced, he's only raced about 7 or 8. But he's never run tracks at this track either, so you have to be a little bit concerned on that. Even in the past, in the truck races, he's done really well, so I suspect that he's going to do pretty good in this particular race. He's had some really good, he's got 40 to 45 point upside, generally speaking, and the farther back he starts, the better that is. The next guy that I like is Chandler Smith. For him, he's had 3 truck races here, and he started in the top 6 in all 3, and his worst finish was 11th. If he can actually get a starting spot a little bit early, farther back, he can really, accumulate even more points. If he starts on the pole, though, he's going to be somebody, or in the top 2 or 3. He's still somebody that you probably want to take advantage of, because he's just good at scoring points, generally speaking. Grant Enfinger is the next guy that I like. If he starts out top 10, which he's done several times at this track. He has a big upside because he's had really good finishes here, and he really hasn't had any problems finishing these races at Kansas. So I like him as a good option. Uh, Christian X or X, he has a really good scoring opportunity if he can start outside the top 12. He's capped a little bit if he starts inside the top 10, but he definitely has upside. He hasn't had too much issue at this particular track in his career, and I look for him to be a pretty solid option. The next guy that I like is Parker Kligerman. Parker is kind of tapped to the point where he needs to start in the back 10 spots in order to be really a play because of his price. But if he is back there, then you can really give him a chance. He occasionally does have randomly bad starts, and when he does have those bad starts, he typically scores a lot of points. But he's not so good at scoring points if he's not starting back there. So the next guy that I like is Derek Cross. Derek Cross has had one bad race here in the trucks, but he's had some really good races as well. He does need to start outside the top 10 to be useful in this particular track and race, but he is somebody that has some potential here. Then some other guys, Brent Moffitt is a guy that I like here. He has won this race before, but he's also crashed out a couple times. But every time he does finish the race, he's done really good. So he's somebody you have to consider, especially if he starts near the back. Matt DiBenedetto, excuse me. He's been pretty good in trucks, and he's worth a look here. He hasn't been super special anywhere, but if you can get, if he gets a, average start spot where he can really build those points, then he's definitely somebody you got to take a look at. Chase Purdy, he's in a position where he's probably going to start near the back. He usually does, and so he has some real potential here. I think he can get 30 to 35 points if he maximizes his potential, especially the farther back he starts. Excuse me, Bailey Curry. Now, he hasn't started any truck races this year, but I don't think, but he's been running his Xfinity too, and he has been good in the last 4 races at Kansas. He has 40-point upside if he starts outside the top 25. So if he can get a 25, let's say he starts 25th, he can get up to like 10 to 15th, which is definitely doable for him in this particular race. Then that's definitely a guy that you could consider. Tate Fogelman is a guy that I think has 30-point upside if he starts outside the top 20. It's very important for guys like down at this level to be outside the top 20. If they start in the top 15, it really just limits their ability to score points because they're probably not going to win the race and probably not going to lead much laps or anything like that. Haley Deegan has had kind of a rough season, but she's actually put in a couple of decent finishes lately, and if she starts far enough back, which she does have tendency to do, then her points potential really go up, and she's been actually good here at this particular track. So I think she has 30 to 35, even 40-point upside if she can start near the back of the field. Excuse me, at this track. Unfortunately, in some races, she starts in the top 10, which really limits her appeal because sometimes, like getting a 10 to 20 point, getting a 10 to 15th place finish. Excuse me, I can't talk. Is good if you're starting farther back because you can get up to 20 or so points just from the spot differential. So then I have Wallace Allen. Now, obviously, this is a little bit more scraping to the bottom of the barrel, but if he starts out of the top 25, he could squeeze out a 30-point day, and I'd say that he really needs to start nearer the back in order to be someone that's useful to use. Same goes for Tyler Hill. He's got to literally start at the back of the pack. Like, if he's not in the back 5, then he's probably not worth using. But he has scored 30 points or more every time he's been at this track, which is really good, except for the fact that he's got to start at the very back, because he's not, if he can go from 33rd to 18th, then, you're getting half the points there, and then you're getting some points for 18th, and you're going to get a couple faster laps and, stuff like that. And so it's just a matter of getting back far enough. So that's who I've got in the truck race. I think it's a pretty solid race, and I think that there's some good drivers here. It's kind of odd that there's actually quite a few drivers that don't perform well at this track and have never really had have had many good finishes and never had consistency and everything else. I know this track is kind of like Chicagoland, and that's kind of a hard track too for some drivers. And I did look at the Chicagoland track data just to see, and that did help me for some of these drivers that don't have many tracks or too many races at this specific track. So we definitely have a nice setting of drivers all up and down the price ranges. Obviously, you need to average them out at 83, 33. We definitely have some capability to do that with all the drivers that are available. And if you have any comments or questions, or if you think I left out a driver you think is going to win the race, feel free to leave that below. And I will be putting out a Xfinity video tomorrow, and then the Cup video after they do Cup qualifying. I wish I could wait to do the qualifying, but there's just not enough time between for these Xfinity and truck races. So, with that said, thanks for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and have a nice day, guys.